What you're looking at here is my stepdad, my former stepdad, who has passed on a long time ago because my mom has since remarried. Now, why am I mentioning him to begin with? He passed away in August of 2006. The reason why I'm making a video about him is because he was a very mysterious character. Um, yeah, sorry, just had some memories come back. But he had a very strange condition with his legs, a sort of reflex sympathetic dystrophy, I believe it was called, in which he had severed nerves and problems with his legs. They always looked like they were inflamed and red. It looked really awful to look at. He had dozens of operations done on his legs um, from all kinds of doctors all over the world. In fact, he would travel while he was living with us to places like Israel and Germany in an attempt to have his legs finally healed. But it never worked, and he was in chronic pain. And because he was in chronic pain, he was basically addicted to alcohol and pain medication. And the cause of what happened to his legs, I mean, nobody really knows, but what he told us was that it was a motorcycle accident that happened quite a number of years back, and that's what caused. And there was a bad operation that took place after that accident, in which the doctor who was repairing his legs severed some nerves. So anyway, my mom met him in the mid to late 90s in Tucson, Arizona, at a care home. And they got together. He started living with us. And he started telling us stories, like really crazy stories about his past. Basically, about how he would travel the world and he would live in these really interesting places like Afghanistan and India and London. He was part of the hippie scene in the Haight Ashbury. Um, he claimed to have known Eric Clapton. He claimed to have known Jimi Hendrix. He claimed to have smuggled hashish from Afghanistan. And a lot of really interesting tales. Um, basically, and he had a weird family too. His dad was a master mason and I believe a high ranking military official during the Korean War. And his brother was a high ranking official for the NSA. Now, these two things we do know as facts. He would obsessively tell us these stories over and over again. He ended up, so there's a number of strange incidents involving him. My mom would come home, for example, and he would have these really strange, serious injuries. Like I remember he had a massive bruise on his backside. Now, you might be thinking that, well, he probably just slipped and fell, or because he was, on substances that he was clumsy, and that did happen. But there were times where the injuries were so severe that it could almost only be foul play. And one time he was really severely injured. My mom rushed him to a hospital where he claimed that two Indian men came to his to our house looking for something. They were looking for something specific. And my mom also said that oftentimes you would have strange people. There would be strange people kind of following them around um, to different places and things like that. We met his daughters. He was married 4 different times, and his daughters are really interesting, good people. Um, they also know about his stories. Personally, my take, I do believe his stories. I do believe in a crazy lifestyle he led, being what I would basically describe as pivotal in the hippie movement in the 60s. I think he was really involved with the Haight Ashbury scene, and I really do think he traveled the world. And just generally speaking, he was good to us. And he's the one who got the sailboat. Started sailing it often, you know, one time all the way to Catalina. But there was, a lot of other really negative things as well that obviously I won't get into because you need to let the dead be and just let them move on. And I'm talking about 2006 here, so uh, but he was just a very peculiar, very strange person, and he left us with a big mystery, basically, as to who he really was, his stories, his strangeness. He was really intriguing and interesting, and his stories really drew you in, and yeah, and he ended up basically passing away as a result of the medications that he was abusing. So kind of sad, but yeah. So basically, in summary, there were strange incidents that have occurred around him and my mom. Um, but we traveled a lot together. We sailed a boat and all over Europe with him. Had a lot of good times, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that more mysteries weren't uncovered, and that he was only about 60, I think, when he passed. So, um, yeah. Sorry, I know I'm not really clear today. I just this is really bringing back memories, of my youth and childhood, and when somebody passes away, you just kind of wish you were better to them. There are definitely things, sometimes arguments and fights, and you kind of realize that after the fact, um, after someone has left the earth plane, that you could have done better with your relationship with that person. And that's something for all of us to think about because life is so incredibly short and we should try to treat each other as best as possible, as hard as that is. I struggle with that every day with my family, and I regret it, but gotta keep going. Anyway, sorry for the rather poor description. I just wanted to point them out. And I'm going to share some links down below. First of all, we are doing the Apollo moon landings Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to share the link that we're basing our story on, our podcast on, I mean. And it's a really long video, about 5 hours long. But this guy really does a great job presenting a lot of details. I personally think that we very much did land on the moon, but there were so many photographs and so many things that were doctored and that were changed, and the backgrounds were off, and it almost looked like Photoshop. It was just really bizarre stuff going on with the actual images that we've seen. So there is a real argument. I'll share the link down to that video, which is impossible to find practically. If you were to search for it, you won't find it, even though it's on YouTube. That's how YouTube is nowadays. Wanted to share a travel vlogger down below called the Indigo Traveler. I donated to outreach to Venezuela, and I've been donating and following the situation in Venezuela for years. And over all these years, 5 million people have left the country, mostly to Brazil and to the surrounding countries like Colombia. And they're in the process of transitioning into 100% digital currency. Oddly enough, I just kind of wonder if this is a test case for the New World Order. But nonetheless, they're still starving, literally, and they're still in dire straits. And it's unfortunate most people just don't care. Most Westerners just don't care at all. Even though I believe that this nation will meet the same fate. And when we starve, I don't think anyone in the world's going to care either. So, even though I'm well aware that as a nation we've donated plenty to people in need around the world, and during famines and droughts especially. So I'm not saying we deserve that. I'm just saying that I don't think anyone will care or help when we finally, when the printing our way into prosperity finally comes into an end, what we've managed to do for an absurdly long period of time, we will probably end up in a situation similar to Venezuela. A rising stock market and a crashing currency, and no food to eat, and no economy, which is what been taking place there for the last 4 years. And before that, it's a very prosperous country. So 3 links down below. Share the Apollo video. I'll share the Traveler video. So in his description is where you can make a donation if you want to watch the video or not. That's what I watch mostly lately. Is like true crime and travelers, vloggers, travel vloggers. Conspiracy stuff I'm burned out of mostly. And I'll share whenever it's ready the link to tomorrow's podcast. All right, take it easy.